Sorry, I hit the wrong button. If your income dropped 30% tomorrow, would your debt survive? If revenue slowed, if interest rates moved, if the harvest didn't come in, would your debt hold up or would it start controlling your decisions? Because here's the truth, debt isn't the problem. Unstructured and unplanned debt is. Jingle. Welcome back to Farmers in Finance. My name is Rico, and I'm here, host of the show. This is episode 22, and we're gonna wait here on Gaurav is my co-host. If you haven't tuned to the show, um, this is your first time, welcome. I host a show. We talk about finance, we talk about farming, we talk about pretty much everything in life. So, uh, and we do have a great show here today. What today's show is episode 22, good debt versus bad debt. So, if your income dropped 30% tomorrow, okay, so what would happen if your income dropped 30%? Have you ever imagined it? Did you ever ask yourself that question? Because this is a question about how how uncomfortable can you get when you get into debt, and it's important to understand how like how you handle your stresses about money and everything like that. And last week we talked about what your concepts are about money, and I shortly introduced my new GPT that I've created with chat with AI, and so far it hit the nail on the head because it's not about really how you conduct yourself. It's how you create the habits that make you that build your beliefs, because once you have a habit, you build a belief, and then that belief shapes the way you proceed yourself, how you act, right? So last week we discussed, where does the money ideas come from? Your parents. Me and Gareth, we both shared, an idea on like where are the roots? Where do we generate these ideologies about money and about you know and how to use it, how to become successful, and everything like that. So we kind of determined that it's our upbringing, it's our early experiences that we have with money. um, I talked about how I used to play little game of cards, kind of like 21, and then we talked about our first jobs, our first paycheck, and I don't know about you, but the first time I saw my deductions, I went like, what the heck is going on? That's the first time I realized, hmm, I got to start learning how to manage my money as well. How do you, your first purchases, big purchases, like we talked about, I myself, I talked about my car, and same as Garv, he talked about his car as well. And then how did allowances play a role in our lives, right? How that was our first, like, oh, okay, we could spend it, but what were we spending it on, you know, at the time? And how do we get taught about spending it, right? And nowadays, obviously, we're getting bombarded with distractions and social media, and then we're marketed to pretty much 24/7. Now we got this, so-called tools, but yet distraction devices, and we we look at money in a different way. So, and in there, we introduced in that episode, we introduced that that is not the root of the problem. It's just a signal. It just signals what you've been doing, right or wrong, right? Like, where do you stand into how to create good debt, and how you stand to create bad debt. So it's just a symptom, and we called ourselves our financial doctors because we try to help people, you know, getting through understanding their association with money, and understanding their habits, and obviously, like what we talked about, it was the conditioning. So as I said earlier, is I introduced my money blueprint GPT. And at the end of the show, I will share the link to it. And if you're tuning in for after the show, I can have the link in the comment. And then I would like for you to test it out and try it out and tell, and then give me feedback, because I wanted to move forward and understand, is it really working? I need help, in a sense, and I need your help to figure it out, if it works, or if it taught you something, and if it created, a level of structure in your life. So, um, would you? Okay, so that is a signal, and that's what we talked about. Today's, we're gonna break down. Here's where we're going today. Um, what bad debt really is, what good debt really looks like, and consumer thinking versus producer thinking. That's pretty big. And the hidden debts, debts that we never talked about. And throughout my career, and I try to read a book every day, not a book a day, but I read pages of a book a day. Some people do read a book a day, but I'm not that skilled yet, and I still have to make money and a living in some ways. But reading the pages of the books, I've learned a lot different things about debt as well. And one sec. And then uh, we'll we'll talk about stress test leverage with real logics. And this is not the show for anti debt. It's is the show for using that strategically. So we're not going to be careless, and we're not going to be uh, telling you things. And this is where it leads to my important disclaimer. We'll call it a quick housekeeping. Everything we share here on Farmers in Finance is based on our experience in financial services, and also because I'm a realtor in real estate. So it's a live show, and this is not legal advice or tax advice or personal, financial advice. This is just, if you need, I mean, obviously, first I should say, if you need advice in specific to your situation, speak with a qualified professional. And if you're not sure who to call, well, reach out to us, me or Gaurav, and we'll connect you with the right proper person and advice. And like, it's important to get things straight, because we don't want to be over leveraging. Every single situation is different for everyone. So I don't want to. I want to know you personally. So if you want to contact, I'll leave all my contact information at the end of the show. And please, like, leave comments, and feedback is welcomed. I'm growing my channel, and I need to have feedback on how to grow it and where to take it. And from here, um, I want to help you guys out, and I want to help myself out. Obviously, because I'm teaching this stuff, and I'm learning as I go along, uh, and we can play together in a sense, and navigate this world together. So this brings us to our famous quote of the day. I love this part, and I don't know if you can see the screen, but obviously, um, if you can't, just leave it in the comment, and we'll make sure that I'll get it properly fit up. So, quote of the day: You do not rise to the level of your goals; you fall to the level of your systems. This is from James Clear, Atomic Habits, one of my favorite all-time books, and it's like last month we set up goals, and we set up our course of action for where we want to go, and this this is more about um, yeah, setting up his goal is great. You gotta have a vision. We discussed it on a mastermind the other day. We're the only animal that has the capacity to visualize, to picture what our future can be, and by visualizing it, you can put it into action and actually take the steps to really achieve your goals. Right. So when James Clear talk about it's the systems, and we're 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 an educated society, but we're educated by a wrong system, and that system is teaching us the the problems that will just reflect itself out, and they will just magnify as we grow old, right? And that's what I was saying. I am. Oh, okay. I just got a message from Gaurav. He's not able to join us today. That's okay, buddy. I got you. Uh, Please tune in and leave a comment if you want. I'll see you next week. So yeah, that is one of the parts of like creating these systems around it, and really uh, understanding that it could destroy your goals, or it could actually make you achieve your goals. Because weak systems will break under debt if you don't have the proper continuity. It's and then another one is another quote. I wanted to use two quotes today because um, these are powerful motivators for me and for other people. And I wasn't too sure which one to choose. So it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep and how it works for you. This is again, I'm bringing back Robert Kiyosaki, and he wrote the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he's is a big speaker on debt and how to leverage. And I thought this was clear because these two quotes put together how you visualize debt. And some people are very against it. They don't want to do anything with it. And what happens is things, mm, how could I describe it? If you describe a river, it flows, right? And that is energy. So it compounded by the evaporation of water, and then the condensation. When it hits the mountains, you get the rains. So the water gets deposited at the highest peaks. So if you think of that, that's like the collection of energy and the assembly. So you're like the mountain that stops it, and then it flows down the river, and it creates this energy, and it brings energy to everywhere. And it's like we can harvest that energy now, and we create these dams that produce electricity, and then that electricity gets changed and brought everywhere. But if you think of that, you kind of want to be able to flow with that energy. You don't want it to stop it and bank it and create a stoppage of that flow. So when people are scared of that, they tend to pour money and not do anything with it, and then it doesn't grow. Like for example, when you don't know anything about investment, where are you going to put that money? Like if you keep it under your pillow, and we'll talk about this, it will not um, actually grow. It'll actually be eroded by one of the debts that is never talked about. Okay, so um, that for myself, I put together this. It's just like money. It amplifies your systems. It's a tool that can help you strategically in place to build um, your freedom, right? Or it can actually it depends, because that's what it happens. It depends what happens in your mind and how you feel about it, and it could actually create pressures. Um, One of the leading cause of the divorce is not debt, but it's obviously money. But how did it get to that point, right? It's how you purchased certain things in your life that now they're not creating the freedom, they're not creating an income, they're creating uh, a pressure, so to speak. If I can make an example, when you buy a brand new car and you start, you know, paying those, paying it back, and you got those payments, and obviously car salesmen are the best because they teach you and split up the payments. But look, you're only paying $100 a week, or they make it so minimal. It's like, well, it's just for a meal a day. You get a brand new car and you can travel to your work. Yeah, but a $5,000 truck will work just as well. And so now you can take that money and invest it somewhere else. That's what I'm talking about, debt. It depends on what kind of decision you make and what the goal is and where you're going to get to. And obviously, there has to be a system in place, right? You can't be lured by the shiny objects, right? So, um, when you have no debt, because there's people out there that don't want any debt, but it hides um, inefficiencies, right? Like you don't know how to leverage it. And then I was thinking about this before the show, and also when you have no debt, you are competing with millions of people that do. So how are you gonna achieve freedom, financial freedom, and creating passive income if you don't leverage it, right? So um, if I can make an analogy with farming, farmers, they project what they're going to grow for the year, and then determine, okay, I need this many seeds, I need this much equipment, and they plan their year, and then they plan also according to events that could happen, so they're prepared in case the event of when I was doing ground crops, like we always planned to have that frost because I was in a frost pocket. So what we did is, thankfully to technology, but there was these systems that it was just like little twigs that bendable arches that you could put on top of your rows, and then you can protect your crop from frost. So you would lay this plastic on top of the crop in a row, and it was so easy, so fast to apply that we could, control a little bit of the temperatures, right? And then they were healed up because we had the tractor that would heal up and cover it up with another plastic that was black, and then there was retention for water. Anyways, that was a system, and that system worked really well, and it gave us, quite the advantage on keeping our crops, putting them in the ground, because that's very important to utilize the whole season because the sun is in cycles, right? And so it gave us an advantage over other people. So we had to get into debt in order to have these systems in place. And because we expected a good crop and we had more certainty, then we were able um, to make this financial decision so that it would actually help us with our production. Okay. So what is bad debt? Okay. Okay. Bad debt is consuming. It doesn't consume, it consumes your income instead of producing it. Uh, Typically is uh, is actually a reflection of high interest, um, so to speak. Just to make an example, is credit cards. I don't know about you, but credit cards interest is probably around at 19%. So if you think about that, like whenever you pay something by credit card, is unless it produces more than 19%, you are actually eating up your income. But not to be against credit card. Credit cards have their use, and if you can actually launch a business or be product like they make you reach production faster, use them, but make sure you pay them in a month, right? So what other things bad debt has? It's they call it the lifestyle inflation, because they make you think, um, like these loans at a high interest, they make you think that you have more money than you actually are producing, but you're actually borrowing from your future self, right? So it's it comes with a lot of emotions because you're always thinking that, oh, I want that now, instead of be like, no, I gotta wait and have that discipline. And again, it comes back to systems, to not to retain yourself and hold back. It's not that it's not going to happen. It's going to happen, but you got to have the proper systems in place and thoughts that you're going to reach that goal, but make it a goal instead of satisfying yourself now. And to make an example, Robert Kiyosaki makes the perfect analogy. If you want to buy a brand new car, and this is what he does, right? Like he said, oh, if I wanted to buy my Lamborghini, I first purchase or acquire property and assets or stocks or whatever that is, an asset that will generate that income that will sustain the payments of the car. And I always feel like that's an amazing thing to do. That's an amazing system, and it's simple to do. So that's again, if it's not about going against what you want or what your goals are. If you want that Ferrari, if you want that nice truck, get it. But just put in a system that you acquire the assets first, whether it be, real estate too is another perfect example, and Robert Kiyosaki goes into it a lot, that will leverage that 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 debt, that money, and make it grow. And then as it grows, it's giving you something back, and that reinforces that you want to do that, uh, use that system, and then you can grow and become successful. I mean, obviously people have done it before, and this is how they use their money, their money understanding, the money knowledge that they have. Okay, so another thing about bad debt, it can consume capacity. It occupies your mind a lot more than good debt. Um, to make an example, if you have to make these payments every month, and that is not producing, like for a car, for example, every month, you're putting out. I used to put out, $1,000 a month for my car, for my truck, and I was always like, oh, where's my next payment coming from? And that causes stress, right? So bad debt is stressful. You feel it. But let me ask you this: if you didn't have that debt, and if you had actually a debt, like let's say a rental property, and it was producing you an income, even if it's $20, Robert Kiyosaki, that's still positive cash flow. So all its expenses are getting paid for, all its equity is still growing, the debt uh, ratio is lowering itself. So it it still has a function, but all you are having is an extra $25 in your pocket. You're not going to stress out about it. That is one of the biggest difference about bad debt. Bad debt equals stress. Okay. So, and correct me if I'm wrong. Leave a comment. Let me know if what I'm saying here is out of field, out of the left field. Okay. So, let's talk about now good debt. What is good debt? Well, good debt expands production. It generates an income. It appreciates. It grows. It it has the opportunity to create an exit strategy. You don't have to have it for a long time. It can actually go to zero, right? Because usually good debt is lower interest rates. So you can see in the future, when we talk about, buying a house, there is 25 years amortization, there's 30 years amortization, but there's an end to it. You know, you don't have to reborrow. You're building equity with it, but you got to be able to manage it properly, right? Um, uh, good debt, in as a farming example, would be a tractor that lays the plastic down. Man, I, I did both when I first started. When I first started farming, I did everything by hand. I was hilling the mounds. I was weeding. I was, watering. I had to move my water pipes. I had to move them across the field because I didn't have enough of the tools or the capacity or even the technology at the time when I first started to to um, to purchase all the infrastructure to feed the field. So I was recycling it, and that took a lot of my time. So I went into a bad time debt. So and and if I considered some of the tools that I could have got, but at least I wouldn't have learned about other tools and researched and kept learning and growing. And so then when I first discovered when I was passing by another friend's farmer's field, and I saw this, I don't know if you've seen it before, but there's these black mounds and they're made out of plastic. When I passed that, I was like, "Ooh, what's that for?" Hmm. And I was seeing that in between the rows there was just a little bit of dirt, and then they were all like lined up, and then I see them planting, and I see them, putting all the plants in, and I'm just like, "Whoa, that's amazing!" And then when I researched how economical it was, well, economical obviously is not economical. It's still a $20,000 machine, traction for the back of your tractor, but still, when I understood what that laying plastic machine would do to my future income, I invested in it, right? And I learned about it, how to be efficient, how to tighten up the rows, how to drive the tractor properly, right? And that was a night and day. My production, I think it went up to 65%. And that was from making it by hand and then using the tractor. And the cost of fuel was like ridiculously small compared to the cost of my time. But again, I had to understand what is good debt. If I had a bad mindset and I didn't want any debt, because most of the time, bad debt is scary and you don't want to do it. So it stops innovation. It stops, like expanding. But understanding what good debt is and not being afraid of using it, then that's where you create more freedom. And that's where you can compete with the top, because obviously, uh, that year that I wasn't using it, I was competing with all these other people that were using the tractor, and I almost lost the farm for it, right? Because their production was 70%. They could offer a product for cheaper, obviously, um, it, and it's faster, easier to pick, no weeding, so the plants are growing a lot faster too, because it's also dark plastic, so it collects the sun, so it keeps the roots warmer even in the cold evenings, and so on and so forth. So it's it's like, it's good. That should be a no-brainer decision if it fulfills a certain criteria, right? And the criteria number one should be that it should produce. And then the criteria number two, like Robert Kiyosaki says, that it should produce enough that it doesn't cost anything, right? So if you have an income generating asset or an income generating property, whatever debt you borrow, it should not produce. It should produce just above it, even if it's just above it, because you can repay it back, right? And one example we can make too is like, if you can borrow money, let's say at 6%, and you can reinvest it at 10%, uh, would you be making money? I know that's an obvious answer, but yes, you'd be making 4%. And then depending on the investment, that growth is going to offset your uh, your income. And I say that because when I look at my whole life policy, is my loan are at 6.5% right now, and I can put it into an investment account. And right now, I'm generating 11 to 12%, and I'm at medium risk. Obviously, these are practices that you have to do when you're more certain of the outcomes. And as a financial planner, obviously, I determine the level of risk you want to take, because obviously in good tech, there's also a little risk component. But anyways, if I leverage that money that I loan to myself from my whole life policy, and I create a repayment plan, you know, I am winning, even marginally. And then this is all these companies do. They leverage marginally in the safest possible way to create wealth. And that's what a bank does. Do you think that a bank holds that money and keeps it in their pockets or drawers? No. They take all the money that you deposit and lend it out, invest it, put it into insurance company, buy bond. They buy assets with it. They return you merely nothing, or you go into bad debt if you leave it into your bank. So maybe one day people will realize that putting money under your mattress is probably better than leaving it in the bank. And also, disclaimer, don't take it for truth, just make your own investigations. But I heard a little birdie out there said that banks, they loan out 10 times, maybe 12. No, I don't want to exaggerate, but let's say 10 times of what they actually hold in deposit, because there's no way that all the deposit all at once will claim their money back. So, folks, if you think inflation is is bothering you, is eroding your money, well, think about this for a second. Why are banks lending out at 10 times their deposits? Just a little food for thought there. Anyways, okay. So I hope that clears um, clears the air for a little bit. and you realize that what the two strategies are for having debt and understanding what that is. And I'm sorry if I don't pronounce that properly, but yeah, that's my Italian accent. Anyways, um, just ask yourself simple questions, right? Whenever you're faced with uh, with getting yourself into debt, because it's like this: you have a money concept, you have money concept, you have a money belief, and whenever you go into a dealership or into a tractor, or even when you're looking at an investment, that can when I take on a debt, first of all, and this is what everybody asks anyways, the bank asks you this, the your mortgage broker, your accountant, can I afford the payment? First of all, can we even under stress, meaning under stress that if something happened to your income, what about if 30% of your income was taken away? Can you still sustain that load, right? And when it comes to an investment and you're renting it out, can you afford being vacant for 1 month, 2 months out of the year? That's huge. Okay. So because you don't want bad debt. So what I created here was the image that bad debt causes stress. Good debt causes financial success, right? So when you sit down and have those contract papers in front of you and you're just about to borrow something, whatever that amount is, even if you're borrowing $100 from your parents, can you repay it back? That's the number one thing. Can I repay it back with my income right now and with my possible missing income? Worst case scenario, right? And then this, and then the other question is, does this debt produces more than it costs? Then it's like, oh, check mark, done. Okay, I'll do it. But please don't get into that. The average Canadian, and we talked about it on the other show, the average Canadian is right now is $23,000 into debt, compounding at 19% a year. Okay. We're paying into nothing. We're paying for the credit cards to go rich. You have just screwed your income. So, first things first, if you have debt, just make sure that you're going to repay it back and repay it back as fast as you can, because that compounding, it's going to hurt you, it's going to stress you, it's going to cause problems in your life, right? So stay at least debt free for a while, kind of remove your concept, and then get back into peace and harmony and with the flow, right? Okay, so that is not just about money. And I was watching a show the other day by Alex Hormozy, but then also other mentors in my life have mentioned this before. And not all debt is financial, and obviously the show is about finances, but it's also about other things. Um, the number one thing that Alex Hormozy said: knowledge debt is also a huge thing, right? If you stop learning, you stop growing. And that your future self, that's a debt that you have to your future self, will not rip the benefit anymore. If you stop growing, what happens? You stop producing, your income stales, everything stops, right? So you need to grow in knowledge. That's a number one thing for me. And what I took from Alex was like, it's so important that you replenish and you educate yourself about certain things, how to save taxes, what are good, bad debt. I mean, this show is just an hour long, but I could, talk for days about that and give you examples on how to put it into practice or how to prevent it from entering. How to change your money belief, right? Um, Another one is emotional debt, right? And don't don't go and again I bring Alex Hormozy up all the time because he's uh he's quite an intelligent man, and he has thought about all the things. He's been in sales for so long, and he creates these offers for people because he leverages humans' emotion, right? But it's our emotions that most of the time get us into debt because we don't sit down and strategically think and plan and understand what systems have to be in place to be successful, right? So um, that's a big one. It's like, don't spend with emotions or for the short term sort of benefit. Think about your long term and stay out of emotional debt. Another one that it's not spoken about because I think there's a lot of secrecy or I guess a belief in our heads that we don't talk about is the legacy debt. And and this is very not egoistic. It's like, why wouldn't you want to leave a legacy? Why don't you want to, create and leave a better world? A lot of people that I meet when I go camping, they're like, oh, I want to leave the place that I found better than I found it. Okay, great. How about you do that for life? At the end of your life, leave it better than you found it. Leave a legacy. Leave a legacy for your children, for your friends, for your causes, for your charity, whoever. Just think about legacy. You know, don't go legacy debt. Have a purpose. I mean, having a purpose is probably the best driven uh, uh, aspect of life. We're capable of doing that. We're not supposed to be in repetition, stuck in a job that we hate and just doing it and then numbing ourselves with substances so that we can cope with our missing with with this debt, this legacy debt, right? And another debt that I feel like it's important is your time debt. Where are you putting your time? Is it going to create? Is it going to produce an income, or is it going to dissipate? And not this ties back to having a purpose, right? It's like, what do you want to do in life? Like, do you want to achieve something? And how much time are you going to put into it? Or are you going to give your time to somebody else because you don't know what to do with it? Those are questions. Okay, so I can show you the water. I know, old brewer, but you still have to drink it. This takes responsibility from your part, and also you have to have understanding. And I hope this show is helping you understand where to head. It's not it's not a beaten path because we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be talking about this if everybody was in good debt, if everybody had their time of their life on this planet. I'm here because I see the struggles. I see I am facing myself struggles every day. I am myself reflecting, but I want to grow. I want to learn, and I want to learn to restore all these debts that I have to my future self. And I am spending my time here with you so that we can work together and understand. So I welcome all comments. And another thing that I want to bring up too, and this is why I'm in this business. I'm in helping people financially and really realizing their potential, their true potential, is because you know what? That doesn't disappear. Yeah, that's right. When you pass away, that doesn't go away. Um, that actually stays there, and you pass it on as a liability. Yeah, that's right. And then guess what? When we did last week the writing a will, you're not gonna write in there what you leave. Oh, I leave this debt to my son. How good does that feel? Like, are you proud of yourself if you left debt behind? So let's not leave bad debt to our children, because why would you want to leave stress? That goes against the rules of leaving the place better than you found it. Um, so like, to generate the freedom that you want in your life, you gotta understand how to leverage debt. So I briefly mentioned before, but there's simple checklist. I don't know if you want to have it later. I can create a checklist for you. But before you sit down and start talking about, okay, is this debt? Like, start asking yourself, like anything you do in life, you start asking, why am I taking this? Why am I doing this? Why am I going into this debt? Right? And not just go into debt because it's just a reaction of your previous emotional state. Like, for example, oh, I just bought a new car. And then all of a sudden, the new car trend, the excitement, the emotions, the feelings that that new car gave you are gone, but the debt is not. And now you're like, oh my God, I got to pay for this car. How am I going to do it? You know, um, I had a friend of mine that he bought this Jeep, brand new Jeep. He was so stoked. He, like, for a month, he was so happy and he was just riding it. And then all of a sudden, like, he lost his job, and then that became the stress. And then he's like, "Oh my God, they're gonna take my car away. How I'm gonna live? I got to take my kids to school." And he was just a wreck. And no mentions. I mean, if you're watching this and I mentioned the Jeep, sorry, I took your examples, but no names mentioned, anyways, so nobody will know, except if they look at my friends and they see you with the Jeep. But anyways, jokes aside, uh, and that caused huge debt. And he's like talking to me. He's like, "Man, I can't do this. I can't afford the payments. How do I want to live?" And I'm like, "Dude, figure it out. Just sell the car. Buy yourself uh, another car." "Well, it's my identity. I can't do that." And blah blah blah. Anyways, he still made it work. He actually went to the company, and he figured out to create a deal with them, because obviously the car company doesn't want you to forfeit the payments, and then they got to get more money, and it just creates them problems too, right? Like, they want to manage and create uh, a compromise, right? And so they compromise with him that they will only charge him interest, and he can have the car for the year of relief that he had until he found a new job, and then he was able to get back on his feet and pay for the car. And so that helped him out. Obviously, it lowered his payments from $1,000 to 400, right? And so he kept going and he kept having the car. But again, if he had the proper questions in place, he could have just sold the car and took the loss, and then he could have regained it and bought a cheaper car. But obviously, it's the unknown that makes people make these decisions, right? So, and another thing that you got to learn about debt is your return on investment. That's a huge, huge uh, part on investing. And I'm going to tell you another story. The other day, well, Christmas time, my wife gave me the gift of Robert Kiyosaki game, the cash flow game, and we played it with the family, right? And the cash flow game is just like a game. It's about to run out of the rat race, and we played this game. And then my 15-year-old, he discovered for the first time. He asked me this question in the beginning of the game because there's cars that you flip over, and he said, "What's ROI, Dad?" I was like, "That's your return on investment." So when you put something into it, you put money into it, and monthly you get a payment back, and that payment is generating an income after expenses, and so that income, it's called the return of what you invested. And the higher that number is, the more money, the more cash flow you're having. And so the whole point of getting out of the rat race is to generate enough returns on your investment that generates a passive income, and then that passive income takes over your actual working time income. So you're paying your time debt off, you're paying your legacy time off, and then boom, you're successful. You're out of the rat race. It's an awesome game. I want to set up here in the Okanagan. If you're here in the Okanagan, I'm going to set up a group so that we can get together and play the game, because it's so fundamental for understanding like how life and how debt is managed. And it teaches you so much in so little time. It is a long game. Got to warn you about it. But it all depends on how skilled you are with your money and management. And it brings up a lot of, emotions as well. And it teaches uh, like probably 5 years of what you learn in school about finances in just 2 hours. So that is a good investment. That is a good return on investment for your money management. So I will be setting up those games pretty soon. So stay tuned, and I'll announce it here on the show where we can go and meet up and play this game. Um, Going back to the freedom leverage, does it align with my behavior? Can I sleep at night with this debt? You know, like these are important questions to ask yourself, right? And so if that amplifies who you already are, just like money, it amplifies who you already are. So it's pretty simple in understanding that freedom, time freedom, money freedom, location freedom, you can go anywhere you want, comes from structure, right? It comes from systems, creating the systems. So the question is whether you use the leverage. And, and I'm sorry to say, because as much wrong there is in this world, it's the game we're in. And that's why I always talk about this this as a game, and I try to gamify it. But we live in a game of uh, chess, a game of strategies, a game of monopolies, right? And it's based on debt. Last week we talked about it, that debt is not the signal, right? It's um it's just a symptom. And we are being so leveraged, and people out there are actually investing money and time to keep us distracted, to keep us in bad debt, right? And you know, number one is your phone. Is it creating you income, or is it taking your income, right? And you got to learn how to leverage it. And like I'm in real estate, and I'm continuously bombarded with the offers. Oh, you get this shiny objects. Invest in this, man. I could end up in crazy debt, and at the same time, I could end up nowhere. So it's like you got to understand where good debt is. Make a checklist, or if you want, I can make a checklist for you. And also, oh yes, I wanted to introduce my newest, latest GPT that I've created, and you do have to understand where um, your money beliefs come from, right? And yes, there it is. Oops. Okay, one sec. Sorry, I'm just loading up the GPT and trying to put it beside on the screen here. Where are we, guys? Okay, here we are. I'm gonna share this. Nope, I gotta remove this and then share this. Okay, can you see that? Okay, so this is my new um, GPT that I've created that I talked about it last week, and it goes about discover your money beliefs. And identify your money blueprint, and then it will help you set up based on the inputs. It will help you set up a practice plan. Like a vision setting, a goal setting, but also an action setting. Um, Momentum that will help you make better decisions, right? Like if you're stuck in a lot of bad debt, we talked about it. If you're stuck in a high interest debt, obviously come and talk to me or Gaurav, whoever you're closest to, and and make a plan how to repay it back. And then once you start that habit of repaying it back, guess what? Now you're going to invest it. Now you're going to understand what ROI is. How much can you handle of risk, right? And then that blueprint, that money blueprint can change. We're not stuck in the same place. We're not stuck with a certain belief system. And so then I always say, like I wanted to say, okay, put it into practice, test it out. And then after 14 to 30 days, come back to it. Find out, have you changed anything? Did any of your beliefs change? And I can just show you here for a sec what it does. But so it actually um, it gives you a little bit of an instruction plan. It's like, what does money mean to you? You know, how where does you feel where you feel financially secure? How much security does money give you security? Some people, it's like, no, I don't need it, so I never used it. So they might be just secure with just so simple, right? What part of your money threatens or protects you? Like who you are, what you do in life, how you share it. Do you donate it? Do you grow it? Do you help other people with it? Do you plant more trees? Speaking of tree planting, um, yes, it takes money. So I am growing it, but I'm donating my time to learning and growing it. So yeah, that I just wanted to show you that, and we're coming to the end of the show, and I hope this helped. I hope this explained what bad debt is and what good debt is. And if you're in debt and you ever feel like you need some help, feel free to reach out. My services are 100% free. I only get paid if I help you. Huh? What other industry offers that type of service? I only get paid if I help you. So if you have any questions, if you're watching this to the end, thank you so much for staying here. It was a pleasure for me talking to you and explaining to you what that is. And if you have comments, please leave them below. I am across all different platforms. I manage my new website. Please go check it out. It's farmersinfinance.com. I repeat that again. It's farmersinfinance.com. I'm adding to it all the times. And I hope if you have any feedback about the website or the shows, you can watch them on there. You can watch them on YouTube. You can watch them replay on LinkedIn. And yeah, I'm more than welcome any comments or any feedback that you have. And we'll stay tuned. Next week we'll have episode 23. I don't know yet what to do, but I'm sure I'll find out what the universe is going to tell me that I should teach on the next episode. Again, thank you so much for watching this today, tomorrow, the next few years. I hope that I created some clearness. Clearness? Do you say clearness? Anyways, I hope I was straightforward and not misunderstood. And you're watching Farmers in Finance. Please subscribe if you haven't watched before. That helps me stay promoted to other people that need this information. And I hope to see you next week. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye bye.